Run them jewels fast. Run them jewels fast. Run them, fuck the slow-mo.
I'm David.
And I'm James, and this is Fighting Words Radio. If you like what you hear, subscribe. If you don't like what you hear, hit us in the comment section.
And James, this week we're going to be talking about Canelo Alvarez challenging Conor McGregor. We got some cross promotion going on here. We got current middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez about to fight at 154 pounds versus Liam Smith. Talking about UFC superstar Conor McGregor, who's talked about boxing before, and Canelo says to Conor, if he wants to get in the ring, I'd be willing to face him.
I think what's going on here is, like you said, cross promotion. I think it's when one is not fighting, it's advantageous if the other guy has a fight to bring his name up. Mm-hmm. Either way, both guys are using their celebrity status and name to kind of draw more interest.
So we see guys respond to McGregor on occasion, but often that's because McGregor is really trolling them and just trying to get some response and stay in the headlines. I kind of feel like what you're saying is that Canelo is learning something from Floyd Mayweather and trying to drum up some interest for his own fight on September 17th. But we hear this kind of thing from Conor all the time. He's a great mixed martial artist. He's a big star in the UFC, just coming off of a very close win in his rematch with Diaz. And people are talking about that, and yet McGregor is still talking about guys in the WWE, and he's talking about boxers, he's talking about boxing. Why is Conor always trolling people outside of his own sport?
Really, I don't know if he really believes he can beat them. Conor's a very confident dude, sometimes overconfident. He may really think that, but I think that most of it is showman, him being a showman, and talking and just really creating that buzz for himself. I mean, if you saw the sparring video
with Chris Van Heerden,
yes, a lot of things. He switches so much. He kept switching from southpaw to orthodox. His boxing, to me, is great for MMA because Conor has such an assortment of kicks and elbows and different strikes. He gives you so many different looks. He can afford to switch stance back and forth in the octagon. If he does that in a boxing ring, it does not work out well for him.
A long time ago, I interviewed some UFC guys who used to be pro boxers and some UFC guys who tried out boxing and just knew the difference between them. And they said that in boxing, you can have a certain stance that you can't have in the UFC because then you're going to get kicked all the time.
Correct.
You have to really be prepared to handle kicks, to handle people who are trying to take you down. And like you said, Conor does have very good stand-up for the sake of the UFC. When he fought Diaz, he was landing those leg kicks. Very good with the counter punches, which was no surprise because he is a smaller fighter, faster hands, was able to use that. He did knock Diaz down, but he wasn't really able to badly hurt him because Diaz was able to come back.
Diaz is a very tough guy also. And that's one point that I'm going to mention as well, is when he sparred Van Heerden is usually boxes around 146. Mm-hmm. Conor, when he just fought Nate, was at 168. Yep. And it's like, if this guy who usually fights at 146 is kind of pushing you around. Now, the sparring wasn't very, very intense, but Conor, who is the bigger guy, in my opinion, did not look like the bigger guy.
Yeah, Conor typically fights much smaller, cuts a lot of weight for the UFC. Van Heerden, he's a respectable guy. He's, I'd say, a fringe welterweight contender. We saw him get demolished by Errol Spence in 2015. But the first video that we saw from Conor McGregor really made it look like Conor was owning the sparring session. And Van Heerden, who's friendly with Conor, came out and said, look, man, this is not really what happened. I don't know if you can take too much from sparring most of the time. Because sometimes some guy might be having a bad day or they might be just working on something, but there's nothing that sells me on the fact that McGregor could ever be a good pro boxer. But I don't think he ever is going to try. I don't think he ever needs to be. The fact that you and I are talking about this right now is absolutely the point. Are you a UFC fan?
A big UFC fan.
So, do you think Conor McGregor would ever leave the UFC behind and try out pro boxing?
He really has no reason to. I mean, that is his zone. He, like I said, he has that big assortment of kicks, and his assault. He has so much, and none of that is worth anything in boxing. So it's like he's really taking himself from what a Swiss Army knife to like a regular butter knife.
I don't see pro boxers having a good time in mixed martial arts. I was there for James Toney versus Randy Couture, where James Toney never even got to throw a single punch. I don't think mixed martial arts can really cross over and do well in pro boxing against guys who've been doing this their entire lives. A guy like Anderson Silva, he wanted to try.
Versus Roy Jones.
Yeah, which, I can understand. You were at the tail end of your career if you're Silva, and Roy Jones is definitely at the tail end of his career. I still think Roy Jones would have destroyed him. Even now.
It'd be interesting. I wonder what Freddie would have to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, Anderson Silva, Freddie worked with him, and he spoke highly of his boxing. So I don't know.
Meanwhile, though, we got a guy like Skip Bayless, God rest his soul, to be a Southerner for a moment, saying that he thinks McGregor could go 12 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. It's one thing to be in a sparring session with Chris Van Heerden, who I think otherwise would have pummeled Conor McGregor on any other day. But to be in there with Floyd Mayweather, I don't think it goes 12 rounds.
If it went 12 rounds, it would be solely because McGregor is that tough. That would be the only reason.
Not because Floyd let him go 12 rounds?
Again, with Conor being fighting Nate at 168, and they got like 4-ounce gloves.
Mm-hmm.
That means a lot to me. Fighting a smaller guy in Floyd, more padding on the gloves. Maybe he could last, but he would look like shit.
These guys do take very heavy punches. It doesn't have the same technique, as much power thrown behind it as boxers do. But still, as you said, it's 4-ounce gloves. Maybe you're not punching as hard because of the fact that there's not as much padding. I still wouldn't want to be hit by any of these mixed martial arts.
At all.
I don't want to be hit by you either.
Right.
I don't even want to be hit by my girlfriend. So,
plus, Floyd is modest sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't go into full attack mode.
Yeah.
So maybe if all of that was brought together.
Conor gasses, though, and mind you, they are 5-minute rounds.
Right.
And
he's done after 2,
yeah.
No matter what, every time. He has to, not so much, either he's willfully taking the round off, or he has no choice but to, take a breather.
He got lucky that he survived against Diaz. I don't know why Diaz didn't try to take him down. I mean, he did.
Wanted him to come
he did
back.
against the fence. But otherwise, in the middle of the ring, he just stood up with the guy.
Yeah, he did, and kind of stuck to the game plan. And I told people this too. Mainly one of my boys, Nino Beige on Twitter. I told him specifically, Conor was dominating those striking exchanges, in my opinion, in the first fight. And people were like, hey, Diaz has reach on him. And I'm like, well, why is Conor dominating these exchanges? That's going to happen in the second fight. Conor's going to pick his shots more carefully and just stick to that and not let Diaz take him down.
Does Nino give us advertising dollars for that plug?
No, I don't think he gives us
So I see you being correct with your breakdown of what was going to happen in the rematch between McGregor and Diaz, and I can't wait for the third fight, by the way. In a way, it was very slightly reminiscent of when Manny Pacquiao fought De La Hoya. You've got a guy who's got speed, and when you've got speed, you can move in and move out and control distance even if you don't have the advantages in reach. And so by using those leg kicks, whenever Diaz tried to approach, Diaz couldn't get inside. And meanwhile, he was having his base taken away so that he couldn't hit as hard. I thought it was brilliant.
He chopped the tree.
Yeah.
Down.
It was a great fight, but it was a sloppy fight for the later rounds. I think there was a lot of suspense. The storyline was great going in.
Definitely.
I would rather keep on talking about that than talk about McGregor versus boxers.
Definitely.
I don't know that McGregor could ever really handle himself the way that WWE wrestlers do. You know, there was Lawrence Taylor trying to wrestle Bam Bam Bigelow back in like 1990.
I remember that.
Yeah, and you know Lawrence Taylor was a beast, and not just because he shattered Joe Theismann's leg. This is a guy who was great on the football field, and there he is gassing out against Bam Bam Bigelow. It's a different kind of cardio. Taking bumps is a different kind of thing, but McGregor wouldn't have to do that. If they made a program along the lines of what Floyd Mayweather had with the Big Show,
Right.
Floyd didn't have to take bumps.
Floyd didn't exert any energy.
You know, and that was a great, well laid out, not quite wrestling match. It was a sports entertainment match.
I think he hit Big Show too hard on accident.
Oh yeah, with the
He punched
first
him
one,
through.
and then Leonard Ellerbe with the amazing goatee. Like, talk about something that would make somebody a great pro wrestling villain. Handing him the brass knucks, some other team member handing him the brass knucks. I think Conor would need brass knucks if he was ever going to go and succeed in pro boxing.
Probably so, because yeah, he's gonna need something. Because his boxing skill by itself from that video, I don't see it.
Well, so he's going to need something, and I'm going to need another beer. So we're going to end this episode on that. I'm David.
I'm James.
You've been listening to Fighting Words Radio. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button. If you don't break up the brass knucks. Just go into the comments section. We'll see y'all next time.